But if you ever do it again, which is a favor to women everywhere, you should not. But if you do, you should be wearing condom on condom and then wrap it in electrical tape. You should just walk around always inside a great big condom because you are shit.
Okay.
You should not be in contact with any living thing being shit.
Have you ever heard the expression, it takes two to tango?
Fuck you.
Welcome back to the Harbor. I'm your host, the Kino Cowboy. I'm here with Scott, Casher, and Dylan. The alumni returns. Okay. Today we're
alumnus.
doing
Singular is alumnus.
Alumnus. Today we're covering a film that Scott's been wanting me to watch and us to cover on the cast, Inside Llewyn Davis. But before that, we have our very first fucking sponsor for this goddamn podcast. Boom, baby. It's me. I'm the sponsor. This is my book, bitch. Go fucking buy it on Amazon if you want a cool coming of age novel that should be a movie, but I can't afford to make. So now it's a book. I'll put in the description below the link. Pick it up. Boom.
We're gonna add a please on that, so it's not so
no. The please is not having
buy the book or die.
No Alpha Brain, no Manscaped, nothing that.
We have a bunch of softy normie viewers.
I would love if we could like early Joe Rogan get Fleshlight as a sponsor.
That'd be sick.
That would be
that'd be sick.
If we could get a Fleshlight made of my bussy, like
okay,
for people to buy. Okay, Inside Llewyn Davis. It's set in the early 60s, according to Wikipedia, 1961. It is about Oscar Isaac, the great one of the best actors of his generation, Oscar Isaac, in a Coen Brothers movie, playing a struggling folk musician in New York City, as he goes through the trials and travails of bumming cigarettes and beds from all his friends and spending all of his money that he has, as well as what little goodwill he has left with his friends, in a self-centered but yet cyclical journey to artistic expression, stardom. What is Llewyn Davis looking for after all? And does he even know?
What's inside him?
Don't forget, he also loses cats.
And there's also the cats are important, actually, thematically.
Yeah, very important.
Now I love this movie. This is probably I've seen most, I think, of the Coen Brothers main features, and this is probably right below Lebowski for me. And part of that's because I saw Lebowski in high school.
I agree.
It was really neck and neck. But it's a very different film, and I think it comes at a point in the Coens' careers where they can do whatever they want. And I think it's important to note that this comes late in their career because it is a movie about art and being an artist, which Barton Fink is another one they made about this. And another somewhat overlooked film of theirs that I think actually relates to this a lot is Hail Caesar, a film I only saw once in theaters.
Yes, sir.
But I would watch again, and because I still think about that movie quite a bit, actually.
I rewatched that recently.
I think about it more than I like. I think about the scenes in that movie. I'm like, great scenes. And then I watch it. I'm like, kind of a boring movie. But I really like the scenes. I like the scenes in the movie, but I don't like the movie as a whole.
And I actually would agree with that. Yeah. I haven't watched it again since theaters. Also, I was part of it. I was making out with my crazy, horrible ex-girlfriend at the time. So
I'd love to watch that.
What a movie to make out about communism and
it's weird and like closeted gay Channing Tatum. But no, so Llewyn Davis, it's amazing. Let's talk about him, the character. Who is Llewyn Davis? He is, in simple words, a fuck, but a lovable one.
He's a what does Gene say? You're a fucking piece of shit. You're a condom wrapped in a condom. Piece of shit.
Right.
I think he's exasperated. His piece of shitness is exasperated after his folk partner commits suicide. I feel like there may have been like a yin and yang balance.
Definitely. I think he definitely kept Llewyn in check. I feel like
absolutely. And we don't get a lot about his partner. You really don't even completely figure out that it was suicide until later in the movie.
Well, that's the tension that I love, is that like you never know what's happening, but it's always that looming like death. Like the whole movie is about like ruminating on like grief, basically. I feel like a lot of the movie is grief.
Absolutely. Now, before we get into this is, other than having our first sponsor with Adrian's book, this is also a historic cast, because I believe this is the first cast where we have all seen the movie, except Mr. Adrian Kino Bachiri over here.
No longer Kino.
No, if you don't watch one movie, you're Kino.
Yeah. Take that crown off.
Some people have that idea. Also, sometimes I will say this. I was talking about this the other day off the cast. Sometimes if there's a director I like, I'll leave movies of theirs unwatched just so I can like save it for later, you know?
I do the same thing.
It's like I don't need to see every Coen Brothers movie or whatever all at once and then have nothing left.
I'm doing that with PTA right now. His first movie, Hard 8. I haven't seen it yet, and I just
nice.
I'm waiting for the moment to be like, yes, I'm gonna put this on.
Yeah, I love PTA. I haven't seen The Master yet, but I've been saving it. You know,
that's one. Yeah, when you find the right moment.
Yeah, I've never seen Munich or Minority Report when it comes to Spielberg. So.
I haven't seen Munich. I really like Minority Report.
Me too. I agree.
I think you would too.
I think my brain's the opposite.
But we're not talking about that. So, Adrian, I am curious. First impressions of this movie, unfiltered, seeing it once.
Unfiltered. Well, first of all, I would like to say that Coen Brothers make some of the most unconventional comedies of all time in different ways. Like you have The Big Lebowski, which is more upfront about its comedic value, but then you have, like we said, Hail Caesar, which was a grower for me too. And rewatching that movie, I really liked that movie a lot more than I did the first time. And then you have the more satirical comedy like Hudsucker Proxy, which is another pretty underrated one. And then you could consider this one a very, very bleak, fucking dark comedy.
This shit is hilarious, dude. I laughed so much in this movie.
Oh yeah, it's a black comedy for sure.
Here's the thing. I think this movie is very well made. I think it's great. I didn't connect to it personally on levels that you guys might have. I feel like if I would have watched it when I was 19, I would have fucking jerked off to this movie. I respect it now, but I don't know. It was so bleak and fucking sad that I'm already depressed enough, and it just was a little too much for me in that way of like, man, I don't need this in my life right now. But you know, it's still a good movie. But like,
I think also you are an artist, and the seeing the cyclical nature of it in the movie can be, you know, even more depressing. I don't consider myself really an artist, so I watched this and I just really enjoyed the folk elements and seeing the cycle of, you know, struggling musicians.
Yeah, it's just like I feel bad because Dylan's on the cast, but I don't really fuck with folk music that much.
I like folk music. Dylan. We can
so like I'm glad to see what he was trying to do, and obviously it's a great take on that kind of thing. But the whole starving artist thing pisses me off because it's like, dude, just go do what you need to do, man, and maybe like you gotta fucking give a little leeway here and there, man. Like, Jesus Christ, dude.
A little bit easier. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine.
Well, I was gonna say he's simultaneously the most narcissistic person who also is like the most self-deprecating, hateful, like internally. He is like the most extreme of both.
Yeah, he really is.
Well, the Venn diagram of those two traits overlaps.
Yeah, they definitely do. Yeah.
In anyone. What's weird is I almost don't see this movie as depressing, and part of it uplifts me. And I think, you know, maybe it's because I can be, well, at least I'm not as miserable as Llewyn Davis. There's always that aspect of that angle.
True.
I will definitely say this is a movie that on repeat watches, it ages well. And just personal background, I watched this first time probably 2018 or so, right before I moved to Spain. So there was definitely a I was finding myself there, and I was also finding my own creative voice, and still am. I think I was about to. I hadn't started stand up yet, but I was about to, and that's another reason I do connect with this movie as someone who travels around to different weird places and talks into a microphone, not sings but talks. There is something like that, and there is. I've always kind of connected with musicians, even though I don't consider myself a very musical person. I tried learning guitar when I was a teenager, and I just don't have the musical aptitude that some people do. You know, I would learn some scales and chords and songs, but it just wouldn't. It wasn't me. But I always connected with the temperament of a lot of musicians, and it's always interesting to me when I talk to musicians, even though we do two different crafts, there's enough overlap in like the travel and dealing with venues and stuff like that. I always have something to talk about with musicians. So I connect it with it in that way. And Dylan, you play a little music?
I play a lot of music, yeah.
You play a lot of music. Okay. Like not a little, Scott.
Yeah,
Obviously you don't follow
I play like every fucking thing.
Yeah, you don't follow Dylan on TikTok.
I play bassoon.
Yeah, I play
probably
fucking the triangle.
The electric bassoon.
No, but Scott, I think it also folk lends itself really closely, a lot more than other music, to like stand up or, you know, doing that kind of stuff where it's a lot of you really talking and engaging with an audience. You have to be really like keyed in more than maybe just like a, you know, a fucking DJ or, you know, a big band where you can kind of just focus on your own thing. I think folk specifically very much lends itself to like you got to build a rapport with an audience.
There's a very specific reason that they picked folk as this. Because folk, it is, he even says at the beginning, if it was never new and it never gets old, then that's how you know it's a folk song.
The movie's a folk song. Yeah, I was gonna say that exact same thing. It's
it is. And God, I'm trying to see. I want. There's so many themes I could jump into that pop out on repeat viewings, and I don't want to jump into them just yet before we kind of talk about the movie and refresh viewers who may have not seen the movie in a while.
Well, a little historical. Do you know like any of the real life stuff that was going on in New York around this time? And,
a little bit. I know this is loosely inspired by Van Ronk.
Yeah, Dave Van Ronk. It was like 1960, 61. That's also, you know, it's so cold in the movie because 1961 New York, I think it was like the coldest winter in like 29, 28 years, something like that. Yeah. So it was a really like historic winter. That's why it feels so cold. But yeah, Dave Van Ronk, he was kind of like, you know, Bob, you know, and you kind of see Bob Dylan at the very end of the movie where it's like, oh yeah, that's, you know, up and coming Bob Dylan about to blow up. Dave Van Ronk was very much like the guy that, oh yeah, he's there too, to like Bob Dylan and Joan Baez and Peter, Paul and Mary and all these other folk like legends basically. So I find it really fascinating that like it's rooted in such a real world, like kind of depressing situation where it's like, yeah, not everyone kind of gets that stardom, you know?
No. And it's because Bob Dylan, I'll be honest, I'm not a huge Bob Dylan fan. I almost enjoy reading his lyrics more than I enjoy listening to his music.
Yeah. I was listening to him this morning.
Nobel Prize winner Bob Dylan for some fucking reason.
I don't think Bob Dylan's a Bob Dylan fan. I don't really think he likes all his music.
No, I heard he's a complete curmudgeon.
I'm not a fan of Bob Dylan.
He's Harrison Ford level, like curmudgeon. He's
he's just like, I don't just here's my guitar and now shut up and listen. The Bob Dylan is somebody who is able to take folk sensibilities, modernize it, and in a sense commercialize it. I'm not even sure that was his goal, but it was commercial enough where his producers or studios or whatever were able to commercialize it.
I think he would have punched you hearing that, but yeah, definitely. He like he very much commercialized and really much like put into the pop zeitgeist folk music.
Right. And like you said, he would punch me for that.
Yeah, he was very anti like anything. If you said something, he was against it.
That's true. He's still alive, right? He didn't die.
Yeah, he's still alive.
Okay.
He still is. I don't know. I don't know now, but
well, I doubt he's listening. But
he's still the most out of place singer in We Are the World. That's like my favorite thing he's done. It's so funny.
I'm surprised he would agree to do that.
Why are you big old?
It's fucking hilarious, dude. You should just go watch his little segment in that music video. It's so
good.
Is it so half-assed or something?
Yeah, yes, it looks like he wants to be there.
Why is he there? Yeah.
Well, it's here's the thing. He does those things whether or not he would admit it. Or at least his studio or producers were able to do those things and bring him into the mainstream and become one of the most successful solo acts of all time. And that is something that Llewyn refuses to compromise on in any way. And that is his Achilles heel. The Greek reference there being very intentional. We'll get into that later.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of Greek. They love their Greek mythology.
Oh yeah, they're big into they're big Occidentalists, the Coens. Yeah. But and if you don't get it by the end of the movie, they also bring up the longest journey in a poster. Yeah. Which apparently in that before Homeward Bound in the original, the animals didn't talk. I didn't know that. My dad told me that.
I didn't know that either.
I don't know. He saw it in theaters. He was around. But which is weird. I don't know. That's just weird to me, bringing Disney into this. But like the fact that they released into theaters like a 90-minute or whatever movie with just animals not talking they wouldn't do that today. That's insane.
I don't remember. I've seen that movie. I don't remember them not talking. Interesting though.
No, it's not Homeward Bound, the remake in the 90s with Sally Field and
okay. I've seen that one.
Yeah, no, I've seen that one. I liked that one as a kid.
Talking about that, like the earlier one, right?
The earlier
one.
Longest journey. Yeah, it's just like it's 90 minutes of trying to wrangle a cat. They said they hated cats after this movie because of how hard it was to film with a cat.
That's what I was thinking about, dude.
Yeah. Man. They were like, we should have made this a dog, but no, it needs to be a cat.
I will say though that the scariest part of this movie is the truth of the idea of not everyone can make it, not everyone's good enough to make it, and like, what are you gonna do about it? And like Bob Dylan being on stage at the end while he's going through all this shit was devastating to me. And
I know the most devastating scene, and it gets me like, oh, choked up even think about it, is the fucking scene where he goes to Chicago and he plays like the most beautiful fucking song for this guy, this promoter, and the guy's like, I just don't see you as a front man. And
that shit crushes me.
Dude, here's the thing.
Yeah, man.
It's crushing. Oh. It also cracks me up because in any other movie like this, that would be the moment where he
definitely
gets his attention and stuff. And Carey Abraham deadpanning, I don't see a lot of money here. It's the most realistic,
so brutal,
funny, brutal thing.
Yeah,
but it's true. And in that scene, so F. Murray Abraham's character, forget his name, represents he represents Troy, who's a character we meet earlier in the movie. A military
one of the funniest little scenes too with Troy.
Right, who quote thrives off discipline.
Does he have a higher function?
Some country sounding guy, and honestly seems like the nicest guy. He's like, Llewyn can take the couch, I'll take the floor. I got to go back to the base in the morning, blah, blah, blah. And there's a point where despite any perceived sort of, Llewyn's like, I'm a purist, he calls people careerist. He calls Gene careerist at one point, which is fucking stupid. You're too
hilarious. Yeah.
It's hilarious.
I want to say real quick that, if we have harbor heads out there that watch every single episode, then he kind of reminded me of Mark Borchardt from American Movie, except Mark Borchardt is real, which we went on about how sometimes you have to make a couple of compromises and you're not going to be a stooge for fucking doing what you got to do to not fucking sleep on a goddamn couch.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, funny. We've been kind of on a struggling artist kick lately. So we
have, and I think we'll get out of that soon. But I did want to, while it was still fresh in our minds and after doing American Movie, because he is very much Mark Borchardt, except he gets abortions. That's one of the only differences. And Mark Borchardt maybe should have. But
those kids are nice.
I do think like a theme of the movie though, because there's a lot of because it's not a plot heavy movie, it's like really thematic movie. I think one of the themes too is you were talking about how Troy is just kind of this simple guy. It's like he's like cursed with thinking, he's cursed with like ignorance is bliss. It's like this is the movie where it's like, why not just be fucking shut the fuck up, be happy. But he's cursed with like this fucking just never ending like anxiety about the future, about the past, about his present moment. He can't stop like overthinking and fucking up. Whereas like literally almost every other character he comes across, they succeed because they're just like, yeah, I'm just living, I'm doing my thing, and I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go do that, and he just cannot understand it.
He needs to be more dude-like.
Yeah, no, seriously, yeah.
But seriously, as occidental as the Coens are in a lot of their references and motifs, the dude is an antithesis to that. And going back to Lebowski, which you can watch our talk about this on our podcast, he is an antithesis to a lot of, John Goodman's character Walter. He is your both Jewish and Catholic rage, Old Testament fury, personified in a character, while dude as his foil is a much more Taoist sort of mentality. And I think the Coens do have an argument that this sort of, you do have to succeed artistically, you have to have a fusion of this free-flowing artistry, but also because we live in the West, you have to be able to do that within the systems that are built around us. And I think Hail Caesar is another good example of that. That is about the Hollywood studio system, the commercialization. I forget his name. It's been forever since I saw it. Josh Brolin's character struggles throughout the whole movie, but at the end of the movie, he still loves the movies. He still loves...
I don't know if you guys ever saw Buster Scruggs, but there's the little vignette of the guy with no legs and Liam Neeson. They do like a road show. It's very much that kind of thing too. They very much have that like through line through all their movies, I feel.
Yeah. You have to love it. And that's hard to do when you mix commerce and art. It robs the joy out of it. And I struggle with it a lot. I mean, dude, stand-ups are the most bitter motherfuckers on the planet. Open micers are the most bitter, just insane, tortured motherfucking assholes on the planet. I love them, but Jesus Christ. And here's the thing. Let me ask you this. By the end of this movie, does Llewyn Davis like music?
No, I think he hates music. Ever since his partner died, he hates music. I think he resents it. I think he absolutely resents music.
I can't help but think that, like, if he had his partner still alive, he would have been successful with his venture.
At least somewhat.
Well, you're saying that there's that balance of, what you were saying earlier about the balance thing. I can't help but think that, like, Oscar Isaac's character Llewyn is that he's all of that, and then his partner was the complete opposite, and that fully balanced it out. I think that's like one of the person. Yeah, he's trying to find his own identity as a solo artist, and his own identity is self-sabotaging.
Yeah,
right.
It fucking kills me that he didn't take the royalties on that single.
Oh, it's so bad. It's just like artistic integrity. Some artists like really deeply feel they have to keep some sort of integrity
but also he wanted the fucking instant cash.
No, for sure.
And also he needed it, and he needed money for an operation.
Which also just what a fucking gut punch of like when he gets there and it's like, oh, she didn't tell you about she came to term.
Yeah, my heart sunk into my ass, dude.
I have a kid walking around out there.
2 years old.
Yeah,
2 years old, walking literally.
Adrian, how'd you feel about good old Poe Dameron and Kylo Ren? I actually so this movie came out in 2013. I saw it in theaters in 2013. That was around the time where rumblings of Star Wars. Disney had just bought it.
Yeah,
little casting things, and so I saw this movie, and then fast forward to like 2015 or like 2014 when like that first trailer came out, and I found out that goddamn these dudes from Inside Llewyn Davis were going to be at Star Wars. I was just like, oh my God, this is like the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, but that's so weird. And also it's kind of freaky because like they were in this and then they were in Star Wars, and then the dude who plays Han Solo was in Hail Caesar before that happened, like 2 years before that. And it's
Coen Brothers are Disney.
You gotta follow Coen Brothers to see who's gonna be
this conspiracy. They're owned by Disney, man.
It's just agencies, certain actors and major agencies get hit.
Definitely.
It's like for whatever reason, the agency in Hollywood, whoever he was represented, Sam Worthington, despite not being the greatest leading man, was in Terminator Salvation and Avatar in like the same year or within a year.
You never saw Man on a Ledge?
I haven't seen that one. Okay. But
I do like that Poe and Kylo, the song they're singing is Outer
Dude,
Space.
Let's not.
I know.
It's one of those
Oh, I
things
didn't
that
make
cracks
that
me up every time.
I love he just like the entire time, just like, what are you doing?
You can
Just
tell he's just
stupid.
miserable recording that. He's like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, but also fuck you for saying like, who wrote this shit? You know, like, dude,
Yeah,
come
no,
on.
he's such a dickhead.
You should be
There are a
happy you
lot
have
of
this
people
fucking
like that,
job.
man.
And not everything has to be fucking soul serious. Like, oh, let me pry open myself and give my whole heart out into this song. You can have fun too.
That's the
Jesus
thing,
Christ.
though.
You're very
Folk-
right about that.
Right.
I cannot stand, as I've grown older, self-serious like artists. They can go fucking fall in a well. Like it's just like you can have levity in art. Like it doesn't. Not everything is the end of the world. And yeah, I agree with you, Adrian.
That's why I'm worried that if I'm glad this movie didn't come out when I was 16, because then I would have idolized him for the wrong reasons. Because I was
Dude,
like,
well,
fuck.
listen, it did come out when I was like 16, 17, and I did watch it when I was 16, 17, and I luckily I was like that for a little bit, but then I've luckily grown out of that. So I have like
and then you realize he gets his ass kicked in the first and last scenes of the movie. He's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't follow this guy. Maybe.
Yeah.
cycle.
Yeah.
You idolize the cigarette smoking, guitar playing, nomadic lifestyle.
I think at that time, though, in the early 60s and just throughout, folk music was looked at in that scene as sort of like a sacred, above all form of like artistic expression.
Definitely. Yeah.
So like he's playing this music and it seems pointless to him, and it's not. He's a purist. Like it's one of those things.
Well, it's like the first part of counterculture. Like it very much folk music came out of like the Beats too, and then they were all so up their own asses, you know. It's very much like this. We're above it. We're above whatever the rest of the world is on type of mentality.
Well, dude, it's like that stuff still carries out today. I go to a lot of bluegrass concerts, and there are people who are complete purists over it. Like you have to be stoic and not move. You have to play as fast as you can, no drums, nothing like that. Yeah. And then you got people. The person dominating the scene right now makes psychedelic jamgrass, and it's like fucking, and he's all over the place playing like a metal musician. And I know so many older heads that are just like, that's not bluegrass. This isn't my bluegrass. And it's like, but music evolves.
Good. I'm glad they're like that. Yeah. Fuck.
And it doesn't have to be bluegrass. There's more space. And that's also something you have to realize is if and this is something I have personally had to struggle over a lot. I mean, sleepless nights is if you get, I mean, no, you're laughing, Adrian, but I'm serious, is if you place your self-worth solely on the value of your art, that is a dark path, especially the reception of your art, which is really not up to you.
No, once it's done, it's out there. It's not yours anymore.
No, exactly. And that may seem simple to say, but it's something you have to deal with. And the fact is, it's not even that not enough people are talented to quote unquote make it, however you define that. It's just that the market does not have enough space for everybody to make it. It's not an issue of talent. And I think as media has become more balkanized and a way democratized, where everybody is sort of a film editor now with your reels and TikToks and newfangled Gen Z technologies, that we have to kind of redefine the idea of what an artist is, which is also something we've talked about a lot on this podcast, and a lot as a bunch of amateurs that we are trying to carve our way in the world.
Yeah, but that's the thing is like, yeah, everyone wants to be an influencer now. Everyone wants to be a YouTuber. Why? Because it's much fucking more interesting than working in a goddamn factory. I'll tell you that much.
People think it is.
But
well, working in a factory, probably.
I don't want to be an influencer, but like the market is so saturated that I look at the few hundred views that we get on our videos, and I'm like, wow, that's fucking cool as hell that we actually, it's not just like 6 views. It's like, oh, this one has 150 or this has 200. Like, that's cool, right, man. That's better than what we were doing 2 years ago. So that's growth. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It feels good. And I feel like they're still niche little markets to go in on, I guess, in the Wild West of YouTube and content, quote unquote. But
I don't know. Is it the Wild West anymore?
No, it's not. We've settled in. but there's still space for
the Mormons have come and settled in.
Yeah, you just gotta you can't let that stuff get to you, and it did get to me for a while. As much as effort I put into my films, and it only gets like certain amount of views, but you can't fucking quit on that, whatever.
There's also a certain point where if you're working on a project, you just have to admit at a certain point, this is not the most commercially viable project.
Yeah.
Period. My stand-up is not the most commercially viable shit. And that's something I've come to like. I'll just tell you, I had a really good night last night at a mic. I hadn't been on stage for like a month because I'd been freaking depressed and almost got fired and all this other stuff. I went back to Madrid, had a good time, very cleansing to kind of visit back and like very, very healing, convalescent, having that retrospective experience. And then last night I kind of had this thing where I've always struggled with openers. That's always been my Achilles heel as a comic, is openers. And so what I have to do is just kind of trust in that my message is just, it's going to make it to the people who are going to receive it. And I often end up ending my set a lot better than I started because it kind of takes the audience a while to catch up to what I'm doing. Because of my stand, I don't just walk up there and be like, hey, dicks and farts. Brr, brr, brr. I enjoy that, but that's just not what I do. I don't even know what I do, but it is not that. And I don't know if I had a point there, but there's a certain point of like, you have to trust in your own artistic process. At the same time, somebody like Llewyn Davis trusts in it a little too much. And also Llewyn, despite being such a self-professed artist and purist, doesn't write his own songs.
Dude, I was going to say, yes, I was going to say that exact same point is we only see Llewyn ever cover songs. We never get any scenes where like he's like sitting down to really write a new thing or do something. Not once. Yeah, I was going to say that.
To the point where, again, if you're not even spending your day writing your songs, what are you spending your day doing? I know you can practice, but you've played these songs a lot. You're probably not tweaking them a lot because they're already written. So why can't you get even a part-time job, Lewis?
Yeah, well, he's busy spending his day figuring out where he's going to sleep next.
Yeah. Can you not bust tables or something? Or is that below you?
Yeah,
like the merchant marine is such a weird job to pick because like then you're out on the ocean and you're lost at sea and can't go to the, smoke hole and play your chords at night.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I feel like it goes back to, I think he resents music. Ever since his partner died, I think he hates it. And he's looking for a way to not do it anymore. It's either do it and get famous or not do it.
Yeah.
And there is a point, and this is doubly true for stand-ups, I feel, where like, does it feel good to be validated, whether through YouTube views or laughs or applause at the end of a song? Yes. Applause at the end of a song, I still think is cheating because people will applause at the end of any shitty song. They won't laugh at a shitty joke. That's why comedy is the most honest art form. But I digress. I talk about that with musicians. I'm like, you can be the shittiest musician and people will applause at you get the same response always. I know immediately if
there's different levels of cheering.
There's definitely the polite, and then there's like, show me your tits or whatever. I've never had a
I love going to folk shows and everyone's just tits out. Just,
oh yeah, dude, just smoking tits out at folk shows.
Tits.
But I don't know. I had a point there somewhere. Here's the thing. I also feel like Llewyn's in it for the wrong reasons. He's in it for a sense of meaning and validation, and he has this almost. God knows what his relationship with his parents are like. I mean, his dad's catatonic. He obviously had some sort of relationship with his dad, which again, the more I think about it, it's very important that we find that scene in the movie where he goes to his somewhat estranged sister, who's living a much more normal, kind of suburbanized life. Is she even in New York? Is she in Jersey? I don't even know.
Yeah, it looked like Jersey or maybe just like somewhere like kind of north. Yeah, somewhere in the suburbs.
Yeah. She's not in the city. Okay. She has a house, a small house, but a house. And he has a nephew. He's a burnout uncle, kind of like me. No, I am not Llewyn Davis burnout. Jesus. But he at one point, she has this little record, I forget what you call it, the small records,
45s,
yeah, where he recorded a song with his dad when he was little. So that right there tells you that he is trying to connect to something. And I think a lot of people, you have to view art, sure, it's a way of validation, but you also have to be very giving with it and not entirely taking. And if you're simply trying to regain the affection that you wish you had gotten as a child, which is what a lot of artists do, at least half of them, you're gonna fail.
Oh, that's wild that you have that take. I have a different take on that.
What's your take?
I see it as he probably came from a really nurturing, loving household. His dad probably nurtured his talents, and I feel like now as an adult, he wants to have some type of struggle because he never had a struggle at all growing up. I feel like he came from a pretty well-off, middle-class, family, a pretty good family life, blah blah blah, good sister, a decent enough dad who at least who records, even in like the the 50s and the late 40s were like, who records their son at 8 years old on a 45. I think I feel like as an adult, Llewyn he hates himself too, because I feel like he wants to have, because he's a folk singer, he needs to have this hard life and this thing that like he's not real if he's not struggling to the utmost degree in it. So I think he very much had like a pretty decent home life.
And no, I actually think that's a really good take as well. And we can only speculate. Now, the part about him imposing struggles on himself is spot on. And there's one shot in this movie, I didn't notice it until I saw it pointed out online. After with Bud Grossman, F. Murray Abraham, and he goes and gets rejected because he is more of a craftsman than an artist, honestly. Is at the end of it, he's walking through the parking lot, and there's all these patches of snow, but also patches of uncovered asphalt, and he has to walk in the middle of the snow, and it's almost like he's unconsciously taking the most difficult path no matter what he does, because he's such a dingus and just can't even imagine it any other way.
I think he like that example with the 45, he misses the beauty of the art form, like especially when he's like playing a song for the dinner party and she joins in and it's real beautiful and like he can't stand it. He's missing the entire beauty and the point of the art form right there, and he has to be so serious. It just bums me out, dude. Like,
I think that's also more of his grief coming out too.
Yeah. Definitely. It's both.
Yeah. I get that, but it's just like but it's the fact that he's like, no, I can't just sing for you right here. I this is my job. Blah blah blah. Like, shut the fuck up, dude.
And I understand like not wanting to be put on the spot. I hate it when every comedian hates it when people are like, tell me a joke. It's like, fuck you. Come on, like, fuck you. And also it doesn't work. There's no context here. I'm not telling knock jokes. Like, I'm not. Like you want.
I don't know. It'd be like if my mom was like, "Hey, can you film this birthday party?" and I'd be like, "No, fuck you. This is I'm not filming a birthday party. That's beneath me."
No,
I think it's also like that's where he's also a hypocrite. Where it's like he says it's his job, but it's like he doesn't see it. He wants to be an artist. Artists and jobs, they don't go, like, that's not in his mind. Those don't go hand in hand. So he's like he's only picking and choosing in certain moments to benefit what he sees as the better moral high ground.
Which I feel like honestly, a lot of that is almost a 20th century ideal. The
job
artists have been craftsmen for large parts of history. Even painters. You would think painters, a great painting, that is one of the highest art forms, right? For centuries, that was seen as a craft, as a
trade.
You have patrons from the monarchy and the aristocracy. The painter themselves is actually not that important. They're seen as a craftsman. That idea started to change for Diego Velázquez, Spanish, one of the greatest painters in the golden age, quote unquote, of Spain, was one of his Las Meninas, that painting, you can Google it, is actually really famous for like kind of centering the artist, or at least introducing the artist into the artwork. which was very novel at the time. You didn't really think about who did it. In the same way of like, it was almost, you were viewed as more of a carpenter. Writers definitely through history have been, you were a scribe, you were a craftsman, you had a job to do. Even something like the novel is a relatively new form. I mean, hell, the Robinson Crusoe was the first major English novel, right? And is that a great work of art? So really, a lot of the ideas of art that we see, and artists and the role in society that we see as perennial, I think are relatively new in the grand scheme of things.
There's a great quote in one of Anthony Bourdain's books, where he's like, a lot of chefs mistake coming into the kitchens being like, I'm going to be an artist. And he's like, no, you're a craftsman. And the word artist and craftsman have gotten so like interchangeably fucked up, because people don't understand that a craft is you work on it, you're always, you have to hone those skills as a part artist. It's you're honing your skills too, but there's just a fundamental difference between like an art and a craft. And I think that is what Llewyn is mixing up too, where I don't know if he sees clearly anymore about what art is.
Yeah, Llewyn's kind of a hack.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, no, it's like craft without art is almost definition hack, of I can play all these songs that other people wrote, or I can tell meat and potatoes, dick and fart jokes with no real insight, or I can film car commercials and nothing else. That's almost definition hack.
Well, that's why he's so insecure about Jim and Gene, because he sees them as hacks, but it's like, oh, that's me.
But also, like, you can just learn a technical skill and use it to make money and not be that interested in the art form. There's plenty of like folks that they go to film school and then they just film commercials and make money. You don't really care about doing anything else, which is fucking insane to me. But also, whatever, you can do whatever you want.
I'll clarify that. I don't think those people are hacks. I think you're a hack if you try to be an artist, but you only do craft with no voice or anything. That's where it is. Yeah. If you're legitimately just, I'm doing this for money, then yeah, you're not a hack.
It's like whenever I see people like on Instagram do like a Picasso style like painting or something, and it's like, and they clearly can't draw. They're just like mimicking the really shitty shit that Picasso did to the later in his life, like the easy stuff. When it's like, oh no, have you studied for like your entire life, like the greats, and like mastered like realistic shit to be able to do that? No, it's just like, I'm going to draw a little line and be like art.
Yeah, like, no, and also the thing about Picasso, by the way, if you see Picasso stuff he painted when he was 14,
well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
he had already mastered realism. That's what
I mean.
Don't get. Yeah, I know that's what you were getting at. But it's like so the idea of like anybody could draw that. It's like, no, the fact that he chose to draw that and he chose to deconstruct things in that way is what makes it brilliant. It's when because I've been to museums where I've seen like either originals or reproductions of Picasso and like seen it through his career, and that's when it clicks, like, oh, this man was a genius. Also a piece of shit, but a genius.
Aren't they all?
Comes with the territory.
God. He was a big one too.
We loved Paris and that during that time. Everyone was a shithead.
Oh man.
Anyways, Llewyn Davis. What do you think? What do you guys think about Johnny Five and John Goodman's little like scene?
I love them so much.
Jesus Christ, dude. That was the most miserable part of the movie.
I love John Goodman in every role though.
It's funny, but also I couldn't stand it when he was in that car trip. It went on forever. And it reminded me of just situations I've been in where I'm like having to sit with people. I'm just like,
going to Vegas?
Fuck up, you fucking prick.
Christmas in Vegas?
Nah, well, I mean, I don't know. Well, so yeah, like my time around Fayetteville magicians. And my time around, so not all of them, just a couple here and there that I've met offhand in Fayetteville. I'm like, this kind of reminds me of these guys. I don't know, but
there's definitely that type of you.
I will say though, I found out something about myself when watching this movie is that I don't fuck with shit happening to cats in movies. That's when the movie I turned on the movie.
Oh shit!
When he hits the cat, that's when I was like, I kind of want to turn this off. I was like, fuck this! I can't stand this.
Scene. That's a hard scene.
Because the cat was all right.
I never have a problem. The cat fucking limped off into the woods to die.
The cat was him.
Yeah, that everyone says that, but I never have a problem with dogs in movies. I don't know if I'm fucked up, but like, whatever. A dog dies.
Old Yeller, you're just stone faced
No,
stoic.
it's just not a big deal to me. But that was like the first time I'd seen something like that with a cat in a movie where it was realistic, and I was like, "Fuck this, I'm turning this off." But I didn't turn it off. But I was like, "God damn!" And like
Shit.
the fact that he left the cat in the car, it just made me sick. It made me hate him. I don't know.
He's a
I do
hateable
like
guy.
cats.
Dude, here's the thing. I fell in love with this movie in the second scene when he has the cat and he's lifting his just a whole shot where it tracks him running into the subway with the cat, lifting his guitar case over the turnstile. I sold into it, and I remember I was watching this with my parents, and my dad was smiling through that whole scene because I
We
don't know.
haven't
There's
talked
something
about like the sort of like Roger Deakins shot this because he shoots almost
Oh, he
all
did. Of course, he did.
all of the Coens, but I
Yeah.
love the color grading and like the hazy, washed out blues of this
It's a
entire
cold movie.
So
It feels cold.
I like the way it looks, but unfortunately, a lot of filmmakers have been ripping that look off in the later years, so I'm
It
kind of
is-
tired of it.
Yeah, it is
Yes.
curious to see. It looks like from now, it looks like an Instagram filter almost, when it's not, but it's what I mean. Like
Yeah, like everyone's taken
context.
from that look.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, it works in the context of the movie, but it has been like you said, ripped off so much that it does lose some of its impact.
Mhm.
But you just have to, once you get more into the story and the characters, it kind of just becomes part of the tone of the movie and doesn't stand out after the first couple scenes.
Also, the soundtrack
is my favorite. It's so fucking good.
the sound, yeah, Marcus Mumford, who I didn't even realize is the husband of fucking Carey Mulligan, who's
so good in this.
Yeah, she's great, but yeah, he sings most of the songs, and also Oscar Isaac does his own like singing and everything. He's a great musician as well. Then they got these Irish guys. Do you know the Punch Brothers? I think is
Yeah, I love the Punch Brothers.
Yeah, I
I've
don't listen
listened
to
to
them that
Punch
much, but
Brothers.
yeah, they do some of the songs for the
Shit.
soundtrack. It's a great soundtrack. It
I
really
did
is.
recognize Punch Brothers, and I was like, "Oh wow, look at that!" Because
Maybe they sing like the Old Triangle, like that Irish folk song or whatever. Yeah.
I do love. I was reading into this. Joel Coen, he was like explaining. He's like the film doesn't really have a plot, and that concerned him at one point. So they added the cat. Like that's why the cat's in it, so they have a plot.
Yeah, for plot, I always think it depends on the movie. Plot is there to give the character something to do and to give the audience a through line to follow. But I've never been a huge plot guy. But also, I'm not as anti-plot as some people seem to be.
No, don't be anti-plot. But yeah, like I said, I've always been fascinated by hangout movies, American Graffiti, and Dazed and Confused, and now I've written a hangout movie. So plot doesn't always have to be at the forefront, and people are stupid when they fucking complain about it.
And now you've watched the bleakest hangout movie.
Yeah, God.
No, if anything, this feels like more than any other movies. It feels like reading a novel. It feels like reading a book. I feel like I'm just, open chapter 1, Llewyn Davis. He's fucked up and he lost a cat, and then there you go. That's the book.
But this is based on a book, isn't it? Like
it's based on the Odyssey.
There's a. I gotta find it. It's about.
I will say, that I was like, wow, that's convenient. He found that cat outside, and then yeah.
Where are his balls?
Yeah.
Where are his testicles?
Yes.
That was when I was like, I fucking hate this guy. He lost their cat, dude. If someone lost my cat, dude, I'd fucking kill him.
That's why you're fucking like that. You got cats again that you recognize as your own. That's why you're getting into your feels about it. I bet whenever you had Tiger around, I bet you felt the same way.
Yeah, well, yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I always like cats.
You ever get a puppy dog, I bet you'll feel the same way.
I don't know, man. I'm not a big dog guy.
Whenever you have kids,
no,
she'll feel the same way.
No,
yeah. Apparently, one of the sources for the film was based on Van Ronk's posthumous published memoir.
Ah, nice. Okay, cool. I didn't know that. So, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
I knew I read that somewhere. I think there was actually a book called Inside Van Ronk.
I think that's his album, right?
Yeah.
Inside Van Ronk. Yeah.
So it's I don't know. Maybe some of this shit actually happened.
I wouldn't doubt it. It sounds for how like fantastical and almost like fabulistic, or that's even a word. It feels. I feel like it's really like he lost a cat. He fucking had to fucking bum couches. Yeah. What was I gonna say? I know. Oh yeah, Adrian. I know you hate Llewyn Davis, and you're supposed to hate Llewyn Davis, but
Yeah.
Oscar Isaac is just God. Like that's what brings me back. He is so fucking endearing to me. Like he's so good. You just see it all in his face. Like what is he? The moment where he's uh, like I thought it was just a good night's sleep, but it's more than that. You just
when he talks about being tired, and we've all felt that.
Feel it, and yeah, it always gets me.
And this is the first thing you saw Oscar Isaac in?
No, yes. I saw him in Drive, and then around this time I saw him in...
Dude, I forgot he's in Drive.
I forgot he's in Drive. I don't remember what part
he's standard. He's the guy.
I haven't seen that movie since it came out, so
I think a lot of film bros overrate the hell out of that movie.
I want to rewatch it because of how highly Sumner regards that movie, and see how it is like over a decade later. But the first role I guess I remember seeing him in was Ex Machina, and
I was gonna say like it was this one in Ex Machina where I was like, holy shit, this dude is fucking.
I was like, yeah, this guy's.
This is the
crazy.
one that I forgot he was in Drive, but this is the one that first one I saw that I was like, oh shit, this guy's huge.
Yeah. That's why I was so excited when Star Wars, like the casting for Star Wars.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, he's gonna be in Star Wars. Amazing, hell yeah.
And then he does nothing. But...
He did.
Yeah, he does nothing. He says somehow Palpatine has returned. That's it.
Oscar Isaac did this, Ex Machina, and A Most Violent Year within like a few years of each other.
What a run!
Wow. Fucking bang.
Agencies just are like, this is the guy now.
Yeah. And now he's Moon Knight.
They fly now.
They've been flying since the Clone Wars. Have you seen that? John Boyega being like, they've been flying since the Clone Wars.
I just want to say that. God, we have to bring it back to Star Wars and every fucking.
I know. I was about to say.
I blame Dylan.
Podcast. I know it's me. I always bring it back to Star Wars.
Oscar Isaac looks fucking coked out in The Last Jedi, and it's always kind of fucked with me. Really look at his face during that movie. He looks fucked up.
His eyes always look really red.
Yeah, dude, he looks fucked. And
it's like Carrie Fisher ages like 15 years and 5 years from her coke use in those movies.
Yeah.
You look at her.
I don't know. It's a funny thing to me. Anyway. Yeah, his trip to fucking Chicago when that dude just straight up gets fucking arrested. What was that about? Why did he just get taken away so quickly?
Had some warrants out.
That's such bullshit.
For arguing with the cop.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like
took the keys.
Damn, I would have taken. Oh yeah, he didn't have the keys, I guess. But like shit.
And also you think the cop would have thrown him in the back and then talked to the rest of them, but he just went off. It's a movie. That's a bit of a plot contrivance, you could argue.
Well, I think it lends itself to like the fantastical nature, like the fable like storytelling.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So the way the Wikipedia explains that is that he suspects that Johnny's drunk and orders him out of the car, and Johnny resists, and then he arrests him.
I know, but like,
I mean, that's what cops
just
do.
Assumes they're drunk. Well, maybe I'm tired, dude. I gotta pull over. It's
a 60s police officer.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, but he's not black.
But he was angry because he couldn't find any black people to harass it.
I forget. Exactly. Is John Goodman dead at that point? Did they leave him, or is he still?
He had the overdose.
I think it's like ambiguous if he's dead or if he's just passed out.
Yeah.
I always assumed he just passed out. Like,
yeah, he might have just passed out, but I just know. Yeah, I mean, listen, they're doing heroin. Who knows what they're getting into?
Yeah, dude. Jazz musicians be crazy.
Yeah.
They're it's really interesting. This is a side note. I read an interesting thing. The reason marijuana was so common with jazz musicians, other than it being amazing, is that because it breaks down time, your perception of time is different. That helped them with their jazz to kind of deconstruct traditional music structure, which I found interesting.
Some tea, baby. You want to smoke some tea?
Famously, it's Bob Dylan who introduced the Beatles to fucking smoking weed. So
yeah,
look what he did there.
That's probably the greatest thing Bob Dylan's ever done, if I'm being honest.
Man, don't be like that.
You guys excited for the Timothy Chalamet-led Bob Dylan biopic coming out?
I don't care.
No, I'm
Are
more
you excited for the Timothy
Chalamet
Wonka. Willy Wonka? The Joker, but Willy Wonka?
Yes.
Stupid. I hope they go into his like weird colonialism of the Oompa Loompas in Africa.
That'd be dark.
God, don't you just hate movies? I hate movies.
Yeah.
No, because I'm not a Gen X fucking red letter media stan. But
happiness is largely, as much as I hate admitting it, as much of a depressed fuck as I can be sometimes, happiness is largely a choice. At a certain point. And Llewyn doesn't choose it. I want to talk a little about Llewyn's relationships with the Gorsteins, I think their name are.
Yeah.
And Jim and Jean. Okay. First of all, how would you characterize his relationship with Jean?
God, that's such a. Does it make clear? I forget if they dated for a long time before, or if they just like were hooking up and shit.
I'm not sure.
I don't think they ever stayed, right? Yeah, that relationship is.
I think they had a past, at least a little.
Oh, they definitely had a past, but I didn't know if it was like I don't. It's never made clear, and I've never like decided which way or the other if like they had legit dated or if they had just been kind of like friends or whatever, and then they just fucked around a lot. You know what I mean?
I think there was something there, and then Jean realized this guy is a mess.
Yeah.
I think they love each other though. I really do.
I agree.
And in their way, there's a lot of different types of love, and something I realize as you get older. First of all, love is both a noun and a verb. And then also the love you have with each partner is different with every person because every relationship is different. So it's really a spectrum of emotions, and there's different tints to those loves you have with different romantic partners. And even though things didn't work out, you have the very tender scene where he's beaten down, and maybe he's just beaten down and vulnerable, so he feels like doing it in that state, or maybe he really means it, but he says, "I love you" to Jean, and she gives a, "Oh, please, come on." Yeah. But at the same time, she did, after everything, put his name in on a show, which is just, you're getting the basket. It's a bucket show or whatever. But she does care about him at the end of the day. And even Jim reaches out. And dude, one thing,
guy Jim's a good guy.
Yeah, even though his girlfriend's fucking everybody. Apparently.
I know.
And that's the thing, is that she goes in on him the whole movie, but she's just as shitty for fucking fucking him.
I love that scene where it's so funny. She's like, "You should wear double condoms, you piece of crap," which is not a good idea. But and she just goes, "Have you heard the expression, it takes two to tango?"
Yeah. But for real, dude.
Which is more than fair.
Yeah, he needs a kick in the ass, but like that really is unfair for her to fucking be like that, dude.
You think a kid could straighten that guy out, maybe? Or
no. That's
I think he would be a great father.
Maybe.
No.
Well, he already has a kid. We didn't see anything come out of that, but
dude, speaking of Gene, it's like that first scene. I don't know why. It's like one of the most out-of-pocket moments. It comes out of nowhere, is where he just is sitting back watching Gene and Jim, and the bartender's like, "That Jean, I'd like to fuck her." It's just like so out of nowhere, and you're just like, "Oh shit!"
That's such a sleazy producer thing.
It's like the way.
This is way before Me Too, so that was like Weinstein was. I mean, basically as common as the last name Smith. His behavior, anyway.
Yeah, it's like also fucked to think about, like some people were having sex with producers to get a movie role or something fucking really big, and then others were doing it to fucking just to get a spot on a fucking stage, dude. Yeah, that's fucking horrible.
Yeah, on just like a bar showcase.
Ugh. Yeah.
Oh, dude, I forgot that is implied, right, at the end. That
it's said.
It's said, okay, I can remember. Yeah,
and that's one reason it's even more complicated that she laid into Llewyn over the pregnancy, because it could have been that producer.
Yeah. I forgot about that little moment.
Poppy. Yeah. His name's Poppy Corsicato. Jesus. So there's that. One thing I really like about the Gorfains, your Upper West Side, well-to-do Jewish sociology professor Manhattanites, they're really not snooty. You can get the element of like they feel good about themselves for helping the starving artists, but at the same time, they do have a respect for Llewyn. And also, there is a class divide, clearly. But I don't know. I really like this movie doesn't characterize them as simply out of touch.
No, I like that too.
No, and they're not super wealthy, but they are
really
wealthy.
give an effort to like understand a different way of life, and like and also they teach like sociology and music, so they're not they're lefties or whatever. What do you say?
I get like they would wear dashiki vibes from them and like go around.
No, they seem very nice.
I don't know.
They seem not. No, I kind of get.
They can be nice, but they can definitely like try their hardest to really embrace. I don't know. Just
I feel like they would definitely have like some microaggressions and they wouldn't realize it. They would
that's what I'm saying.
Some really like weirdly out of touch shit, but they wouldn't realize. They would be like they would do it from a weirdly nice
place. Think it was like a respectful
he's a credit to his people.
Yeah.
No, they have patrician taste in art and culture, but
they remind me. I went to the Ren Fair a couple years ago, and there was this older white couple dressed in dashikis playing African drums, traditional African drums. I was like, I feel like these are the types of dudes.
Was that medieval Europe, or is medieval Europe?
I had no idea why I was there. I was too drunk to ask.
I'm just gonna sit here and eat my turkey leg.
Exactly, literally. I was cracking up.
Overrated, dude. We'll say.
Oh, that's funny.
No, I do
like even their guests though are somewhat interested. Like, oh, you're a musician. You know, they don't know him. There was that point where he talks with the piano instructor. He's like, "Do you know this other random pianist?" Is like, does every pianist in New York know each other? That's a ridiculous.
Oh, that's my cousin.
He's like, yeah, that's a ridiculous question.
They bring around probably some snobby folks, but I don't think themselves are snobby at all. And that's why I feel genuinely bad when she like runs off crying because she doesn't really get what she did wrong. Or not that she did anything wrong, but like, I mean, I guess it's how much they know about him and his partner's relationship before his partner died.
I think it's also, it does feed into like, they do see him as like, oh, he's the guy who sings the songs. They, as much as they do appreciate and like Llewyn, they do still see him as a separated thing of like, yeah, they do the songs. And so they don't fully grasp that like, this guy fucking killed himself. And like, so there, I guess that is kind of like that out of touch, not microaggression, but you know, like doing it from a good place, but not understanding the full context of
it's neoliberal elites. Like I'm telling you, it's exactly what it is. They're out of touch. They think that they can understand the struggles and empathize with it, but they really are so out of touch that they're misunderstanding and misrepresenting.
Right. And those neoliberal elites, like in Hollywood, often patronize the arts, though.
Yeah, no.
Attempt to lift up some sort of perceived underclass, of which probably due to his upbringing, Llewyn Davis does not have to be part of.
Yeah.
Or Mark Borchardt for that. But they're such freaking hardheads. And they are a bit pretentious because they named their cat Ulysses, which I want to wrap this up talking about that. So this movie is very much a cycle. The first scene and the last scene are identical. And you don't really get that until you watch the whole movie, that you realize like, oh, the first scene is chronologically the last scene in this movie.
Right.
Because you see him wake up the next day and you kind of think, well, he doesn't look like he got punched in the face, but maybe it wasn't that hard or it hasn't bruised over yet. But naming the cat Ulysses is important for a couple reasons. There's the obvious Odyssey reference. Ulysses is the Romanized name of Odysseus, the main character of the Odyssey, who it is the classic hero journey story. You can't get any more than that.
Yeah.
And that is about a hero, I guess, who Llewyn, whether or not he is, perceives himself as a hero overcoming trials in this set up by himself in this way. And Odysseus fucked himself over, you know, because he pissed off all the gods. But that's also fate. There's an idea of fate in Greeks. They're obsessed with fate. And is it his fate to just suffer? Maybe he's not fated to be Dylan or anything. But also Ulysses, there's also James Joyce's Ulysses, the novel, which I'll admit I haven't read. It's one of the most difficult novels in the English language.
I tried reading it. I had to go back to it. I have to go back to it a different time.
I'll take a crack at it someday. I know about it because I studied literature and stuff in college. I haven't taking a crack. I read about 1 page of Finnegan's Wake before I was like, I'm not doing this. Yeah, like
that's fair as fuck.
No, that's full on. Like, I'm writing a dream. Like, that's in complete dream. Like, he'll just make up words. And I even talked to my like college professor about it. I'm like, that's entirely masturbatory. And he was like, yeah, it is. Like, he was saying this is straight up. And this is a guy who will read, 18th century Japanese stuff for fun, which is some of that's actually really interesting. But shout out James Fowler, UCA, good professor. But Ulysses is about Leopold Bloom, who is a textbook everyman. But one of the things that he does in that book, there's a ton of Odyssey allusions into that, or so say scholars. And there's, I think the term is Homeric irony or epic irony. I may be getting that wrong. And so what you're doing is you're taking your everyman, but through his stream of consciousness inner monologue technique that he uses, you're able to realize that every single person on this earth is the hero of their own story, going through struggles. And it was a revolutionary literary technique at the time, and still is. I mean, people can't pull that off. And it came at a time with modernism where I think psychology was becoming more of a science, and the idea that everybody is the hero in their own story is what applies to this. And you have that hero's journey. And if you study the hero's journey, it's all about change. But one of the options there in the Campbellian archetypes is when you come back home, there is no change. Or either you change, your home changes, and you can't come home. But in this case, it kind of subverts it because it seems like he'll forever be going in that cycle, never able to get out of it, because he's trying to go through the hero's journey, but cannot accept that he is not the hero because Bob Dylan's sitting right over there.
I think that's like exactly spot on, but I also think because of their Jewish background too. And have you guys ever seen A Serious Man by the Coens?
No, I haven't.
Serious Man is basically the story of Job, but in the 50s, where it's like his whole life is falling apart. He's getting shit on, blah, blah, blah. But it's very biblical in that way. I won't spoil the ending, but it's very biblical. But this feels also not only very Greek mythology, Homeric, is that what you just said? Homeric.
Homoerotic.
Yeah, homoerotic. But it also feels very like biblical, this movie too. He's very much a Job. He's very much a struggler but instead of finding, whatever resolution that God gives in the passage in the Bible, it's very much like, he's in this cycle that he's Job forever. He's always suffering.
He doesn't repent and he brings it on himself.
Yeah.
Job's an interesting story because instead of bringing his wife and kids back to life, he just gives him new ones also. Yeah, he's just like, here's new, whatever. It's all the same. This is all property to you. Bible's weird.
I do find it curious that the Coens, as they're Jewish, and a lot of their works very much about a struggle, very much from a Jewish perspective, and they really have a certain view on life that's it's so specifically them and so Jewish that it's really fascinating to me just to see their writing and their style and their like their outlook on life is very unique to me.
To paraphrase Dave Chappelle, don't get into a who suffered more contest with Jews.
To paraphrase Family Guy, I didn't know that Greenberg was a Jedi name. Anyway.
Okay, well, we can talk more about this movie. I do want to say I love the production design in this movie. The scene where they stop at the gas station and he's drinking the old glass Coke does make me nostalgic for a time that I never experienced.
I will add, he also has an iconic character look to me. That fucking corduroy blazer, corduroy pants, like his whole getup, it's iconic to me. That is in the books one of the best outfits in a movie.
Oh, it transports you, man.
I will say that that outfit would get you by in a winter around here usually, but up there he fucking needs a heavy coat, and it was
another great scene.
It's hard for me to like think about that because I'm not used to. I've never been up north, so New York winters, I don't have any concept of how fucking cold it is.
No, or Chicago. I like Chicago and New York, but I've never been there in the winter, and that's by design.
Oh man.
All right. So I think we've covered most of this movie. Do you guys have any final words to add about this movie?
This movie
Huh?
This movie fucks.
Oh, okay, yeah. Like I said, I didn't connect with it on a ridiculous level, but I can recognize why it's good and why it's acclaimed, I guess. And it does speak to like part of the artist in me, but also I'm just so sick of like the starving artist mentality and being miserable on purpose and stuff that I'm so turned off from his character on purpose that I'm like, man, I don't know.
I think I totally get that. This time I watched it, I hadn't watched it in a few years. Because I used to watch this. I mean, there's a period where I was watching this a few times. Like, it was at least my 5th time watching it beginning to end. And I'll watch certain scenes of this movie isolated just because I like them so much.
Yeah,
I'll listen to the soundtrack. I did connect this on a scene. There was a time I was leaving, the country. I had my own failed relationships. I did connect it with more on a visceral level then. And now looking at this, there is a sense of looking back at my younger self, not that much younger, but my myself from a few years ago, with a renewed perspective, looking back on my 20s. And this is like a guy who never grew out of his early 20s. And I did have a bit more of a cerebral take on it this time. That's probably why I knocked it. I'm like, I probably still like The Big Lebowski better than this. It was kind of neck and neck before, but after this rewatch, I'm like, I feel like I can connect with that movie more.
I think this movie is very much too like you watch it at different ages. You get something new out of it. At least for me, I watched it at 16, and I've watched it now. I'm 26, and I've gotten throughout the years I've watched it. I've gotten something different out of it each time I watch it.
Right, and I think that's something that speaks to a great work of art is that it says something so essential about the human experience that it can be communicated to people regardless of their age and still be relevant to their life in that moment.
Exactly.
That's a weird thing where it's like, I kind of wish I would have seen this when I was a teenager, but I'm glad I fucking didn't, boy.
Yeah, for sure.
Fucking A. And I will say that
insufferable.
The thing about The Big Lebowski is that it's the movie you and your friends watch an ass ton in fucking college, and then you get kind of like you distance yourself from it, and then you come back to it a few years later. Like, is this like still hyped up? Is it still good? Yeah, it's still just as good as it's ever been. And there's certain movies like that you watch from college that don't have that hold up value. And
hot take, Pulp Fiction is that for me. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, really?
Really interesting.
That's a hot take.
I haven't watched that movie in like 6-7 years. I'd like to revisit it.
A lot of that is I've bonded with my family over that movie, so that nostalgia kind of never goes away.
I think it's a strong movie, though.
I think it's
still a strong movie, but I've definitely it's weird.
And that's another one you have to contextualize it. Very fresh from the 90s, has been iterated upon.
Yeah. But also that's Pulp Fiction is the movie that like indie filmmakers everywhere was like, okay, I have to be like this because
I have to be quirky and write dialogue, but I'm not as good at it as Quentin. And then also I'm not casting John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson. So.
Of no fault of its own. It's what it spawned, I think, is why I look back, I was like, yeah, it's good. But
we had a Inglourious Basterds cast
that's the best
weeks ago, and that's when me and Castro were like, yeah, Inglourious Basterds is his best movie for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%, hands down. Like I just rewatched it. I showed it to my girlfriend like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
so good,
so good, dude. Well, do you have a least favorite Coen brother, or do you just love them all?
I don't like Miller's Crossing as much as some people do. That's one of their earlier ones.
Yeah.
And I just rewatched Burn After Reading, which I find fucking hilarious, but some parts of that movie are hard to get through. But I will say, I guess no fault because I haven't seen it in a while. I think it would be Hail Caesar if I need to go rewatch it. I love so many scenes in isolation, but God, as a movie, it just drags for me and it's boring as shit.
Interesting.
Yeah, but to be fair, I need to rewatch it. So.
Which is also similar themes of commerce and art, which I'll also add. Babylon recently had that, especially in the last scene where he is still in love with the movies despite everything.
I haven't seen it yet.
You don't get this. You haven't seen Babylon? I think
not yet. I need to.
You would like Babylon.
I know. I just haven't gotten around to it. I've been catching up on so many of the other Oscar movies that's like one of the last ones I need to watch.
Yeah, well,
like,
fuck
no.
the Oscars for being filtered and not putting Babylon in their list. They're pussies.
It's because it criticizes, well-to-do white liberals. That's why.
I did get a spoiler though. I know like the last little end of the movie is like a montage and avatars in the.
Dude, that's big spoiler.
That sucks that you got spoiled. But
I know. I don't even know. Like, it was just fucking. I was scrolling Twitter and they're like, "Oh my god, avatars in fucking Babylon." I was like, "What the fuck?" So
yeah, the whole movie shits on the exact fucking people that would be voting on the Oscars anyway. So
yeah,
of course they didn't put it in there.
I've heard it's like a movie about Hollywood that hates Hollywood.
I think what it is and the Coens have this with Hail Caesar, and so does, I'm forgetting his name. Who's the director?
Damien Chazelle.
Oh yeah.
And after so many successes, you have to be able to successfully work within that system. After a while, you have to rekindle your love of it. And that's something I have to remind myself with my own creativity. I go through periods where I hate what I do and I can't enjoy comedy or what have you. And it all comes down to getting down to what it is and connecting with people.
I will say,
all right,
I want to rewatch Fargo and No Country for Old Men and True Grit. I've only seen those each once, and I liked all those movies. So I need to.
No Country for Old Men is another.
I need to do a little Coen rewatch because it's been a long time for some of them.
Yeah, and it'll be nice to watch True Grit at home because you can turn on subtitles for freaking
Jeff Bridges. Just
I
remember I saw that movie when it came out, like 2010, I think.
Yeah.
For some fucking reason, me and my friend went to the theaters and we saw that movie, but our dumbasses sat at the very front row. So the entire time I'm like this, looking up at fucking Jeff Bridges' old ass going, rah, 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 and I was like, what the fuck is this movie? I had a bad first experience.
That's how I saw Avatar 1 in IMAX 3D in the very front left seat of the auditorium.
Oh shit.
It wasn't
bad time.
It was weird.
Yeah.
Inside Llewyn Davis.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
I love it.
Next week, I think we're doing American Graffiti. We're trying to, this and American Graffiti is a little break from some of the more art house stuff we've been doing because I know it takes a toll on poor little Casher. I'm just kidding, dude. But American Graffiti will be timely because my book will be out and we can go in on teenage experience, which I've been thinking about lately, obviously, while doing the finishing touches on my novel. And American Graffiti is what really brought me into that love for that kind of hangout kind of experience. So, look forward to that, everybody.
Buy it here.
Yeah, buy my fucking book, please. Don't let me be a Llewyn Davis. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll fillet you if you do.
No,
we can't legally promise that, but
I'll keep a job, like a good boy. But
like a wage cuck.
Yeah, wage cucks unite.
Dude, Llewyn hates the wage cucks, man.
All right, thanks everybody.